the stated goal of highlighting the diverse roles civil society organizations play in the advancement of the country. Aji Amisisi was following proceedings on Tuesday, and she now reports. We'll now move on to another story. That report is not yet ready. Justice Emmanuel Nke has convicted and sentenced former Social Security boss Edward Graham to 1 year in prison and was also ordered to pay $73,000 to Home Finance Company in default to serve another year in jail. Graham, it could be recalled, was dragged to court on charges of economic crimes. The case revolved around the employment of one Anche Cham as finance manager of Home Finance Company. Prosecutors say the accused used his influence as a Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation boss to ensure the employment of Ancha, who was evidently unqualified for the post. The company consequently spent $73,000 to train her on the job. The Special Criminal Court said prosecutors have proven the case beyond any reasonable doubt. Well, in a separate legal case, the Special Criminal Court has also handed down a 10-year jail term with hard labor to one Alassane Touré for defiling an underage girl. The court, as we hear in this report by Ibrahim Jata, also acquitted and discharged one Salifou Touré who was charged with rape. We'll take our first break. Stay tuned.
Make a deposit between February 1st and April 30th and have a chance of winning one of these amazing monthly prizes.
Free air conditioning, free installation, and free electricity bill for 6 months.
Oh yes! My bank gives me free air condition, free installation, and also pay my electricity bill for 6 months.
Standard Chartered. One American-style side-by-side fridge freezer.
Whoa, my bank cares.
6 months of free electricity supply.
Yes, for the first time in Gambia, my bank pays my electricity bill for 6 whole months.
8 months of food supply as the grand prize.
Yes, I can spend $10,000 on food every month for the rest of the year, and my bank will pay for it all.
34 reasons to leave your funds with Standard Chartered Bank.
What else? Standard Chartered. Here for good. Standard Chartered.
Welcome back. Police in Senegal on Wednesday intervened to scatter anti-Abdoulaye Wade demonstrators. The organizers, who were angered by the police action, argued that their protest action is legal and that made a formal application to that effect was made more than 24 hours before the protest march. The protesters were met with rubber bullets and water cannon, but leaders of the movement have promised to step up the resistance between now and the February 26 presidential ballot. We have details in this report.
Senegal police deploy in force to block a protest by people opposing President Abdoulaye Wade. Opposition candidates intended to march towards the city centre.
We applied more than 24 hours in advance as required under the law, so we are abiding by the rules and we intend to stage the march.
The opposition says Wade's candidacy for a third term in the election is unconstitutional because he's already served 2 terms. With the first round of the vote due in 10 days' time, the government's maintaining a tight grip on the capital. A demonstration planned for Wednesday was banned. Riot police stop anyone trying to approach the zone around the presidential palace. Discontent has been building up since the decision by Senegal's constitutional court last month to approve the candidacy of 85-year-old Wade. Active among the opposition is the Y'en a marre movement.
This is not right, but we will not give up the fight. It's outrageous that when we make a legal application, it is refused. What is happening is the Senegalese people want to demonstrate. and the government doesn't like it.
Le peuple sénégalais allait manifester et que ça les arrangeait pas.
Earlier, would-be demonstrators faced rubber bullets and water cannon. Leaders of the anti-WAD movement are warning they'll step up their protests between now and the poll on 26 February.
The visit to the White House by the Chinese Vice President did not go down well with pro-Tibetan protesters in the U.S. Talks between President Barack Obama and Xi Jinping centered on trade and commerce. The top Chinese government officials' visit was clouded by China's recent decision to veto a UN resolution on Syria. But both Beijing and Washington have pledged their commitment to ensuring a competitive but balanced trade flow between their countries and the world.
Tibetans and Uyghurs demonstrated outside the White House on Tuesday to protest the visit of Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping. Mr. Xi, who was expected in October to become China's next prime minister, is on his first official visit to the United States this week, a visit clouded by China's recent veto of the UN resolution on Syria. Trade was another point of contention. Last year, China's trade surplus with the U.S. reached a new record. In trade between the two countries, China exported more to the U.S. than it imported.
We want to work with China to make sure that everybody is working by the same rules of the road when it comes to the world economic system, and that includes ensuring that there is a balanced trade flow between not only the United States and China, but around the world.
The United States also accuses China of undervaluing its currency, giving Chinese manufacturers an unfair advantage over their American competitors because they can sell their goods at cheaper prices to foreign buyers. Beijing parried the attack with a stab at American protectionism. Xi Jinping said that China and the U.S. must strike a better balance in terms of commerce and investment. In welcoming Mr. Xi, the U.S. Vice President Joe Biden said that while the U.S. and China had the most important bilateral relationship in the world, and that competition from China was welcome, the two countries would not always see eye to eye.
The United States and China will continue to compete. And as Americans, we welcome competition. It's part of our DNA, and it propels our citizens to rise to the challenge. But cooperation, as you and I have spoken about, can only be mutually beneficial if the game is fair.
Following a meeting and luncheon at the White House, Xi Jinping visited the Pentagon. Such an invitation is unusual for an official of Mr. Xi's rank. In October, that will most probably change as he steps into the role of Prime Minister. This week's visit could set the tone for the next decade of U.S.-China relations.
We now join the Central Forecast Office for a look at the weather report. Before we go, a reminder of our headlines. 14 newly promoted senior military officers have sworn to execute their duties as dictated by the laws of the Gambia before the President and Commander-in-Chief. Former Social Security boss Edward Graham has been sentenced to a one-year mandatory jail term and ordered to pay $73,000 to Home Finance Company. Police in Senegal have scattered anti-Abdoulaye Wade demonstrators seeking to prevent the 85-year-old from securing a third presidential term. And putting aside rivalry and talking business, Washington and Beijing have pledged to resolve to ensure a balanced and competitive trade flow. This as the Chinese Vice President makes a historic visit to the Obama White House. You can also follow that story and other Grts programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor Grts Radio Live. That brings us to the end of the news. Thanks for joining us and stay tuned for